loss and for insurance. So I give you the definition of health. It's the complete physical, mental, social, and emotional well-being, how one element affects others. School districts must provide healthy environments for children, and so do child development centers. So multiple factors influence a child's health. Genetics, hereditary, environment. We're going to focus on environment more than anything else. We'll talk about genetics and heredity as well. So some kids have health problems basically because of their parents, and it's something that they can't control and they can't do. Genetics do exist, and they are interesting. I always say this jokingly, but my father was a professional basketball player, 6'4". My mother was 4'11". I'm 5'4". I was fortunate, I guess, fortunate enough to get my mother's height. I did not get my dad's height, but that was basically just heredity. I didn't really have a choice. It's genetics, and that's kind of what happens. Family history doesn't mean that a kid will inherit certain things, but it's a good predictor. And if you remember from your biology classes, if you've looked at dominant and recessive genes, think about redheads, blondes, and kind of how that occurs. It's heredity, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be the case. So environment, we can work with environment. You have control over this as a teacher. You don't have control over the other things. But you can reduce stress. You can help kids participate in recreational activities. You can help them follow a nutritious diet. You can give them access to medical and dental care. You have control over this. So this is important, and that's why I spend the majority of this class talking about the environmental factors, because you can change it. You need to be in a position where you can change things, not a position where you're kind of bound to them. So that's something that you want to consider. So safety, we're going to spend a lot of time looking at playgrounds. Playgrounds are different now from when you were children. We used to have slides that were 20 feet high in the air. There were no guide rails. Kids would go on them. Those of you that have gone to Cedar Point, a long time ago, they used to have a ride that was called the Sky Slide. It was an 80-foot slide where people climbed up in an burlap sack and they slid down the slide. It was a fun ride when I was a kid, but in today's environment, safety features would not permit this at all. Playgrounds are much different. We're going to look at what makes a good playground. Safety, it has changed a lot, and it's different. It's changed throughout the United States. So think about the differences that you notice. That's important, because I want you to compare those to what you see in the environments that we look at. So nutrition, this is the second half of the course. We're going to talk about how schools do it and how early learning centers do it. My focus when we talk about nutrition is early learning centers, because, as I keep stating, as school teachers, you really don't have autonomy over this, but as somebody working in a child care facility, you do have autonomy over nutrition. So we'll talk about that from an early learning center perspective. So I give you a list of the factors that affect quality of growth and growth rate. These are other things that we can look at, talk about, and consider. So this is going to be something for those of you that are getting teacher certification that you need to know. And this is why I would not delete the PowerPoint slides when you're done with this course, and I would save some of this stuff. On the PECT exam, they'll have questions concerning what a child should be able to do at each age. They don't give you one thing, like they don't say child should be able to throw a ball 5 feet. They'll give you a list of things, 4 or 5 items, and then they'll say, what age should this child be developmentally? So you have to determine when these achievements should occur. So I present these in these PowerPoints. I'm not going to talk about each one of them, but they're here for you to have as a resource, and they're also here for you to study for the exam when you take it, if you're going for teacher certification. So I give you the list of what happens at 2 months. You can read that on your own. I give you the list of 4 months. $6 months. 9 months. 12 months. 18 months. 2 years. Let me note when we're looking at 2 years that this is probably the most challenging age for children. Those of you that are going to be working in an early learning center, if you're in the 2-year-old room, best of luck to you. Tough age, really, really, really tough age. Three years. 4 years. 5 years. 6 years. 7 and 8. 'And finally, 9 through 12. So as I stated before, this is something for you to look at. I want you to think about this if you're going to take a PECT exam eventually, because they're going to ask you, they're going to give you bulleted lists, and they're going to say, what age should this child be? It's something that you probably should know, and I think it's important. And you can gauge too with the kids that you're working at if they're developmentally appropriate for their age as well. So when we do our final project in the class, you might want to look at some of the stuff from the Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh. They have a good section for safety considerations for children. I give you a link to it. You're certainly welcome to check that out. But they talk about injury prevention, and it's something to consider when we're looking at our facilities. Heat safety. Heat safety is a problem. Whether you believe in global warming or not, there's certainly an argument that that it's getting hotter in the summers. And if you're working in an early learning center and you're working with kids in June and July, they're going to be around in 90 and 100-degree temperature. You have to have shaded areas. You have to have breaks whenever possible. You have to have access to water bottles. Sunscreen if the parents bring it in from home. Have this stuff on hand for kids. Be alert for beehives and wasps' nests as well. And heat safety is something that you're going to definitely have to worry about if you're working in an early learning center. Posture. Teaching children appropriate posture at a young age is important. How a child's posture starts around probably the age of 4 or 5 will impact them for the rest of their life. So if you see a child that slouches in their seat really early on, they're going to continue slouching in their seat, and it's going to impact their posture. It's going to impact curvature of the spine, and it could have impact on their bone growth and development as well. So demonstrating good posture is important. Try to make sure that kids sit on the floor, as you will hear many teachers say, crisscross applesauce. Have the kids cross their feet and sit on their butts. Don't have them kneel or sit in the W position. because that could put stress on their hip joints. When they're sitting in a chair, try to make sure that the chairs are comfortable and they're relaxing for the kids, but it's also a chair that has good posture. We probably all went to schools where the chairs were falling apart, or you had one of those desks that was one of the little folding desks that only had a little table on it. Those aren't good for posture. You want a good, solid chair that helps represent posture. So one of the important things for lifting and carrying, teach a child to squat when they're picking up something heavy and not to bend over. Use the muscles of the arms and legs instead of the back muscles. Try to help them stand close to an object, and don't have them overestimate what they can and can't pick up. That's on you if you're designing your environment, because you're going to pick an environment that benefits the kids. So oral health, this is a struggle. I do believe that our society is providing good medical care to kids, but oral health can be a problem because a lot of parents have misconceptions that baby teeth don't mean anything, and permanent teeth are what should be worried about. Teeth decay all the time, and if you have injuries or damage to the roots in the baby teeth, it's going to hurt the permanent teeth as well. Minority children are more than likely to experience tooth decay and lack of dental care. Oral health is important. It's something that you need to consider, and as a teacher, it's something to try to be proactive about. Work with your school nurse if a child is having problems. So, baby teeth help with the spacing of permanent teeth. If you ever see somebody that has a gap in their teeth, they might have had problems with their baby teeth when they were coming in. It can certainly hurt their speech development. It can influence the shape of the jawbone. So watching the behavior that a child has when they're eating, chewing, or what they're doing with their oral health is important. And if you're working in an early learning center, make sure you teach kids to brush their teeth after each meal. Get them in a habit, get them in a pattern. They're more likely to do it later in life. So, self-esteem. Self-esteem is important. Kids develop it around the age of 5 and 6. Basically, a kid develops self-esteem by doing things successfully. So your job is to give children things that they can do successfully and that they can win at. You want kids to feel confident and feel like they have the ability to do something, so when they go into the later grades and they're challenged, they feel like they can overcome challenges. This helps them develop social and emotional competence, and it'll also help them with their health as well. A happy kid, an unstressed kid, is going to be a healthy kid. So think about some ways that you can develop an emotional climate of success in your classroom. What can you do? How can you make sure that kids are happy, that they're succeeding, and they're doing well? My opinion, use positive praise. Work with children. Work one-on-one with them, work in small groups, tell them when they do something right, give them encouragement, give them praise, and set them up to be successful, especially in the younger grades. If you have a child that is struggling with higher number addition, give them some of the easier problems and have them answer them so that they can build confidence. And then if you have a child that's doing well with it, you can give them some of the more challenging problems. So stress. I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about stress later in the course. Stress is basically environmental forces that hurt an individual's well-being. We'll talk about how stress impacts organizations, and it's certainly a part of a child's life as well. So your job as a teacher is to basically take an active role in the lives of children. Look for signs at home that could be stressful. If kids seem to be experiencing the same stressors, it could be something about the school. It could be something about the teacher. It could be something about the principal. Teachers have to be alert to this stuff, and I think that's important. So how do you manage teacher stress? You have to be a good actor, especially at the young grades. As a high school teacher, if I was in a stressed mood and my seniors picked up on it, they picked up on it. You're working in elementary schools, you have to be happy, positive, bubbly every single day of your life. You do not want the kids to think that you're stressed. You need to not show it. You have to smile every day and help the kids relieve their stress, and then you can vent and take care of your own problems on your own. But it's a struggle in early childhood education because you're an actor. Every single day of your life in early childhood, you are an actor. You have to put on a show for the kids and give them a positive show and a positive experience. So, childhood depression, this is another table that's in the book. You can certainly take a look at this on your own, but this is something, too, that we're going to look at later on. Children have fears. You've learned in other classes, children fear not having food. Children fear moving, and they fear death. Moving is one of probably the most challenging things for a child. Children are resilient to it about the age of 6 or 7, but between the ages of 9, 10, 11, or 12, you really can hurt a child developmentally if they move from a school district they were familiar with to a different school district. Schools have a responsibility to create a safe environment. If you end up teaching an upper elementary grade and a new kid comes into your building that's unfamiliar with students in the district, you've got to take a responsibility to make them feel comfortable. It's important because you can alleviate their fears, and you can provide them with a safe environment while they're in school. So, poverty and homelessness. Schools shouldn't address poverty. It's kind of hard not to acknowledge it, though. We talked about transient student populations earlier in the lecture, but kids will start to understand that there's something different between them if they have money and kids that don't have money by about the age of 6. It's difficult to address, and it's kind of hard to associate it, but kids do realize this stuff. School violence, here's a positive. School violence is down across the United States. We don't have as many fights in schools. We're doing a good job at reducing bullying, but it's a different type of bullying now that we're seeing. We're seeing internet-based bullying. We're seeing phone-based bullying, and that's a lot different than probably what all of us experienced when we were in schools. But school violence and fights, it's declining in the United States, so that's a positive. Correlation with school violence is attendance. If a child is being bullied, picked on, or getting into fights, the person that is being picked on is likely to miss a lot of school. They're going to fake illness, they're going to cry, they're going to be sick. The parents aren't going to stop them from going to school. So if you see erratic attendance with your kids, see if it's an early alert for violent behaviors. We're going to talk about resiliency in children. People that can break challenges, and the school system, can help them, and that happens through good teachers. If you're a good teacher, you can help a kid be resilient. So this is a long chapter. A lot of important content. If I can do anything to help, please let me know. One other thing that I want you to do for chapter 1, I have an article that I've posted on Blackboard. Please read it. It's a couple pages. It relates to childhood obesity, but I thought it was interesting because it gave some good statistics. It's a short article and it's an easy read, but I'd like you to look at it. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.